Yeah, back in the 80s, man, Miami Vice, Don Johnson, Sonny Crockett was my look. And rest in peace, Glenn Fry. It was his birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
Ow! So we're going to get down to chapter 9 here. I'm going to learn how to smuggle weed and blow my friends' money. Made a lot of stupid decisions at that moment. But I was 20 years old. I was 20. So, Mr. Tim showed up 2 weeks late to pay off both his connections. Paying off Ron's people first because Ron was getting his car repoed by some guy called the Wizard, an ex-biker who wanted paid now. Being $1,500 short to him figured to be no problem. He still had weed left back in Chicago. Thing was, his best connection, Jorge, George, only got half his money due to him. To say George wasn't pissed would be an understatement. He didn't know about the double front, and Tim blew a lot of the cash. He was there for 4 weeks in Chicago. Jorge would still come around me to sell me coke, but Tim would only have his dick in his hand every time. Jorge asked, "What about the money, senor?" At the time, there was still $3,500 owed on the last deal to Jorge from Tim. The ties between Jorge and Tim were severed after Jorge fronted me a quarter pound of coke that we smoked all in one night. It was quarter ounce of coke, so it was $400, 7 grams. Yeah, we smoked it all one night, me and Tim. I was to sell it and had my brother hide a gram of it, and then we would do all of it that night. 2 hours after that gram, the whole night costed me basically $300. We smoked a whole quarter ounce on Freebasin. At the time, my loyalty to Tim was to Tim. Knowing who to trust can be costly. Tim would see no return on the weed left behind in Chicago, and time was running out on him to pay the Wizard. When the middleman Ron takes his cut first, that's being short to the guy hasn't been paid in full, the Wizard. The biggest mistake can be spending money before you make it, believe me. People like to be paid on time. It builds trust and is a strong reflection of one's character. It was March and I got a call from Murph. They were ready to send me and the money and do the 5 pound deal. Having told Tim, he suggested I put up the $1,500 from the 3,000 Murph would send me to pay off the Wizard and get the next front. Instead of calling Jorge and buying it directly from him with cash, looking out for the Iowa City boys' interest, I had the money wired to me, put up the $1,500 to Tim and Ron to pay off his debt. Stupid. It was Friday, and Ron was to pay off the wizard and get the next front. I thought with Tim and all the pounds I had witnessed, it would work out. I had the remainder of the money in hand to use once we received the load. Tim suggested we get a hotel and wait. The $1,500 left would be reduced to $1,300 after one night of smoking coke and paying for the room. I believed in Tim, a big mistake. Things really never turn out as planned in dealing. People have their own times and own agenda. Some things just aren't meant to be. With dope suppliers, you're at their mercy. The Mexicans are on Mexican time. That means when Jorge said he will meet you at your house in an hour, it could be 2 or 3 hours later. That's if you're lucky. Sometimes it could be a day later. That's why they call it dope, because dope she's dope. The waiting game can happen on both ends. Either you wait to get paid or you wait to hook up. A vicious cycle that one needs a strong stomach for. I had missed 2 days' work by now, and we had switched hotels. The bills at the house were all past due. Hiding out with Tim from Jorge at the hotel was rather expensive. By Wednesday, I was down $600 cash. Hours were like days, and Ron was no longer returning Tim's call. Tim knew how to live as long as somebody else paid the bill. The boys from Iowa City were getting impatient and would call me at work every night. By Friday, I had $300 left of the $3,000. I was running confident that Tim would come through. On Sunday morning, I was back at the house, all the money gone, coke, and $100 hotel rooms. What a freaking week. Here I was, 20 years fucking old, $3,000 in debt. Word would get back to Des Moines that I had ripped off Murph and Willie for $3,000. I told them over and over it didn't happen that way. I promised to pay them back. Making $250 a week at my job, paying $20 a week back to them would take the rest of my life. The only way to get them to pay back was getting paid back by Tim. It just didn't happen that fast. Like I said, things never turn out as you plan when drugs are involved. The new plan was for Ron to take us to Nogales and trade Tim's Lincoln Mark V for £10. We had to cross the border and hang out at the doctor's office, Ron's steroid contact. Tim had no title for the car, so it could not be sold or traded in Tucson. Besides, they would give him more for the car in Mexico. I hate when a plan doesn't come together. After some shots of tequila earlier in the day, we found ourselves sitting at the doctor's office as Ron tries to set up the deal. The office was dark and gloomy. It had high ceilings and walls that didn't go up to the ceilings. As I laid down for a nap, I remember the constant footsteps and shadows passing by somewhat dark room. Failing to mention, we rode down in 2 cars. Tim and I would ride back with Ron and his wife. With Tim and I That was the plan. After Tim would sell the car, we would ride back with Ron and his wife. So, since the deal never went down in the car, and Tim and I following behind, Ron figured he could show us up by getting a. Oh, this is when we rode down to Nogales. When we rode down in 2 cars, yes, the plan was to ride back with Ron and his wife. But here's the fucking deal. On the way to Nogales, Ron figured he could show us up by getting a blowjob from his wife. Yeah, Ron, we're all fucking jealous. Too bad your wife's a bitch, I told Tim. So Tim floored it, and we passed him to the left. Ron wearing his shades and looked over and smiled as a huge joint hung out his mouth. We flipped him off. It was Ron's way of saying, she my wife, and I can make her do anything. She wasn't that good looking, kind of a body, but Tim and me didn't care about her. All we cared about was making money. We were desperado, counting on Ron to make this deal. There I was, laying on the examining table in this witch doctor's office south of the border. Between the Spanish speak echoing down the hallway, I heard Ron raise his voice to Tim. I suddenly arose to walk down and see what was up. Before I reached the end of the hallway to the lighted room, Tim was already coming my way, pissed. Fucking Ron's wife told him I was hitting on her. It's always a bitch who gets in the middle of this shit, Tim exclaimed. What the fuck did you say to her? I asked. Bitch is just making shit up like they all do. Let's get the car and get the fuck back to Tucson, Tim ordered. Having to walk back across the border to get the car, our plan was to get back to Tucson and come up with a new plan. You still got the checks? Tim asked, referring to some Western Union checks a friend from Chicago sent to Tim. One was for $250 and the other for $150. Let's get to Tucson, get some shit after we cash these mofos. As we got closer to the parking lot to get our car, we heard Ron saying, man, just wait, we need to talk. Yeah, right, I told Tim. Looks like he won't be getting blown on the way back. We grabbed the Mark V and headed back. Almost making it to San Joaquin Mission, 10 miles south of Tucson, doing 140 miles. Wouldn't you know, the fucking tire blew. Coming off a tequila buzz that afternoon, we thought we could make it the rest of the way to the next exit. No spare. With plates off my car on Tim's Lincoln, we rolled the shoulder on the rim. So there we fucking were, sitting ducks for the police. We were 2 miles from the exit. Our plan was to call a wrecker. We didn't make it. You know it's against the law to drive down the road on a flat, the cop would ask us. Let's see some ID. Tim, of course, did not have any. Dude was a repeat offender. I guess he wanted to find out if he was really wanted. Well, he was. He had skipped probation back in Illinois, and it was only a matter of time before we were face down on the shoulder, handcuffs on our back. Old Mr. Tim would be taken down to Pima County and wait extradition back to Illinois. I would get a ticket for fictitious plates and ride back to town. The police thought we were carrying some shit with us, and we had nothing but a bottle of inositol, which is a baby laxative sold at head shops for cutting coke. They knew they couldn't arrest us for that, but when you got cut, it's just like having coke in the eyes of the police. I had no fucking idea how to come up with a new plan. Tim had all the ideas, and he was on his way to jail. All I knew was that I was $3,000 debt. I would have to wait. So there it was. The year was 1987. Managed to blow through $3,000 loaned to me from the Iowa City boys. But it all comes around and it all goes out. So stay tuned for the next chapter. For chapter 10, that was chapter 9. Bert Cross's Tales from the South Side. And gonna hear about when things come together, so to say. So tomorrow I got this aging test. And we'll let you know how that turned out. Peace.